Please have a seat. We're back on the record. All jurors are present. All counsel and the defendant are present. And the witness can retake the witness stand. Ms. Hickman. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hickman.
Good afternoon.
We left off before lunch, right before we were going into some exhibits. Okay. And again, if you need to refresh your recollection on anything I'm asking you, I have your reports here to help you out. Okay.
Thank you.
Not a memorization test, but I think you got this locked down. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Government Exhibit 74. You've got gloves on, and that item is sealed, right?
Yes, it is.
Does it have an item number, exhibit? There's two numbers, exhibit number and or an item number?
There's an exhibit number on it.
And that's 74?
Correct.
Is there an item number on there?
Yes, there is.
And what's that?
Item 1JA.
Okay. And do you see any tape on top with lettering, writing on it to seal it?
Yes.
What's on there?
There is, I had already checked and looked, on this package is my initials and the date that I closed this up.
Okay. Can you go ahead and cut it open and open it up?
Okay.
Kathy, if you want to go look at it. We'll give you a couple more. Since Kathy's up there, we can economize her time. It shows you government exhibits 103 to 106 as one envelope, and then 107 to 110. Do you see those two?
Yes, I do.
Can you go ahead and cut those open for me?
Okay.
Don't cross-pollinate for me, Ms. Hickman. And
They are all cut open.
okay, so exhibits 103 through 106 have already been admitted. You see that envelope?
Yes, I do.
Can you just open inside? Kathy's already seen this, but can you go inside and open one of the envelopes and see what it is?
Okay.
It's been admitted, so you can pull it out.
Okay. Yes, I see the item.
Pull it out and hold it up.
Oh.
And what is that, Ms. Hickman?
It's a cartridge casing.
And what item number is 103 to 106 associated with? What item numbers?
From the packaging, item 103, exhibit 103 to 106 is associated with items 22JA, 23JA, 24JA, and 25JA.
All right, put it back and tuck it back into exhibit 103 to 106. The next one has not been admitted yet, so when you open it up, just cut it open, 107 to 110.
Okay. It is open.
It's open. And then what items are associated with 107 and 110? What item numbers?
The item numbers associated with exhibit 107 to 110 are 26JA, 27JA, 28JA, and 29JA.
And can you go inside and look at each of the envelopes and let me know if you recognize those items inside?
Yes.
And let Kathy, standing to your left, also see.
I examined each one.
Are they recognizable to you?
Yes, they are.
And what are those things?
Each mini envelope contains a cartridge casing.
Your Honor, move to admit Government Exhibits 107 to 110.
No objection.
Exhibits 107, that's through 110, right? Through 110 are admitted.
Can you hold up one of those?
Yes.
107, 108, doesn't matter which one.
This is Exhibit 110.
That's also a what?
It's a cartridge casing.
And then last one, you have Government Exhibit 74. I'm sorry, you can put that stuff back in the envelope.
Yes, I have Exhibit 74.
Can you look inside and tell me open the envelope inside and tell me what that is? Well, first tell me if you recognize it.
Yes, I do recognize it.
And what's inside Exhibit 74?
It is a cartridge casing.
And is that associated with what item number is that associated with?
Exhibit 74 is associated with item 1JA.
Your Honor, move to admit Government Exhibit 74.
Yes, ma'am.
No objection.
74 is admitted.
All right, Ms. Hickman, Government Exhibit 74 and 103 to 110, up in front of you is all shell casings, right?
Cartridge, yes.
Cartridge, is that the right
Cartridge
word?
casings, yes.
I think I've been using shell casings because I can pronounce that better. Shell casings. Okay, I'm going to use that one. So you use those, you took possession of those and did latent prints exam on those?
I did not do a latent print examination on all of these.
Which ones did you do?
I did a latent print examination on Exhibit 107 to 110 and on Exhibit 74.
Okay, and those items, 74, 107 to 110, do you find anything?
I did not.
Are you familiar with weapons and shell casings and?
I have very limited knowledge with shell casings and firearms due to my job.
Okay, you worked on cases with shell casings before?
Yes, I have.
Is it common or uncommon to find latent prints on a shell casing?
It is not common to find latent prints that are of comparison value on cartridge casings due to their limited area, the just handling of them to be loaded into a weapon, the pressure and the heat that they fall under whenever they're being actually fired through a firearm. So there are a lot of factors that reduce the possibility of a latent print of value being still a value after it's been fired.
Okay, but you tried.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure the jury knows I'm holding a shell casing or bullet and I put it in a gun to get fired, right?
Yes.
I fire that weapon.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
I fire that weapon, and the heat from that gun, and then that shell case is expelled from the gun, right?
That's correct.
And is it common for heat to disturb or disrupt or impair your ability to get a latent print?
Yes, it is. The elements make it difficult sometimes to recover prints. You have heat that can take away the actual residue. There's residue on hands that is used to actually transfer the detail that's on your skin to a surface whenever you touch it. So heat is one factor that can actually take away from those prints still being visible after it's been exposed to it.
And next I'm going to talk about, we're going to talk about already admitted Government Exhibit 101 and 102. Do you know what I'm going to refer to, it's already admitted in evidence, a rifle with a flashlight? I think you testified earlier about that?
Yes, I did. Item 21JA.
21JA. And so to avoid opening this up again, you recall that weapon?
Yes, I do.
What was distinctive about that weapon, if you remember?
Well, that weapon had a flashlight that was taped to it with a black sort of a duct tape on it.
And was there a strap, do you recall?
Yes, there was also a green fabric strap, which I did not process for latent prints.
And that's a Government Exhibit 101, which is item 21JA for you, right?
21JA, yes.
Did you examine an item number 21.1JA?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
That was a rifle magazine and 31 cartridges.
And that's Government Exhibit 102, which I have shown is admitted. And so you did a latent print examination on 21.1 JA, which is a Government Exhibit 102, right?
Correct.
All right, let's talk about both of those. Let's talk about the magazine and ammo. What was your analysis? What did your analysis conclude about doing a latent print on that?
For 21 JA or 21.1 JA.
21.1 JA.
Okay, so the magazine and the 31 cartridges. For the magazine, I did find latent prints, but they were nothing that was usable for comparison purposes, as well as for the cartridges, nothing that was usable for a comparison either.
And I didn't ask this, but besides heat, is there anything else that would impair your ability to obtain a print from a surface?
Yes, there are. There are actually several factors. One I'm wearing right now, barriers that are over the skin. So if someone is wearing gloves, your ridge detail that is on your skin is not allowed to be transferred to a surface. Also surfaces, the type of surface that it is. Clean, flat, smooth surfaces are best for leaving prints. As you see, children like to put their fingerprints on windows. But a curved, dirty surface, it obscures your ridge detail from actually making contact with the surface when it touches it. Also movement. Latent prints are left unintentionally. So as we've moved through this courtroom, we've all touched surfaces and potentially have left latent prints. Movement, sliding, our skin is very flexible. All of this can distort a latent print as well. Then you also have the touch factor, how you touch something. If you touch it too light, it may not transfer your ridge detail to the surface. If you press down and touch it too heavy, you can also start to flatten out your ridges, which obscures some of the detail in your print. And then we have natural things like weather. Rain can potentially wash away a print. We're in Arizona, so sand and dust can cover a print. Packaging of evidence as well can matter, because if it's not packaged properly, then the sliding within the packaging can potentially rub prints off. There's a multitude of factors.
And I think everyone's familiar. It's like the print cards we put down when you get identified, right? Don't touch too light, don't touch too heavy.
Yes.
Is that similar to what you're referring to?
Those are the exemplars. So those are known prints, and those are better than latent prints because they're taken for record-keeping purposes. So they're in a controlled environment where someone is purposely manipulating your fingers to try to get the best print. Latent prints, we've touched everything. Touch the handle coming in. You don't really think about the amount of contact or force needed, and sometimes you use varying amounts from touching light to touching heavy.
And again, gloves is also something that obviously impairs your ability to obtain a latent print sample.
Yes, any barrier to the skin, anything that prevents your ridge detail from actually making contact is a barrier that can prevent you from actually leaving a really good latent print on a surface.
And the next exhibit, Government Exhibit 101, which you referred to as 21JA, the gun, the rifle, right?
Yes.
What did your latent testing conclude with that exhibit?
With the rifle 21JA, there was also no prints of value that is usable for comparison purposes as well.
And do you recall why?
Well, with an item such as a rifle, there's factors with it. Guns sometimes can either be old and they can have rust, which can prevent the actual skin from making contact with the surface. You can have guns that, if they're well maintained, they're actually oiled. The oil prevents fingerprints from being left on a gun as well. Some guns have textured grips. Surface, sometimes their triggers are also textured. Any textured surface also prevents incomplete contact of your skin with the surface as well. So your latent print may not exist.
Do you recall where on the rifle you try to capture some latent prints?
I processed the entire rifle, everything, including the flashlight, the tape, except for the green fabric strap that was attached.
Even including the flashlight?
Yes.
And again, your testing methodology is generally accepted in the scientific community?
Yes, it is.
And one last question. Gloves also would impair an ability to capture or obtain latent prints off the gun too, right?
Yes, if someone is wearing gloves while handling a firearm, it's an obvious barrier of your skin to the surface.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a little bit in reference to the type of items that could be tested. You talked about ideally a clean, flat, smooth surface would be ideal.
Yes,
This table right here would be ideal.
it would be ideal if it's clean.
So it needs to be clean, and then nothing can come behind it and rub it.
That as well. You wouldn't want anything to come behind. So after you're sitting in that seat, the next person to come and put their hands right over the place where you had, that would be also obscuring your prints, potentially.
What happens if two people touch the same location and you get a double print? Are you able to separate it?
I would have to look at the latent. It depends on how much of the latent is actually visible, so I would have to see it.
And I think most people know that everyone's fingerprint is different and unique from others, right?
Yes.
What about clothing, canvas bags, items that are more material-like? Or do they have the capability of being tested?
They do have a capability. I'll look at, when I get an item of evidence, I do a visual examination. So I'm looking to see if the item as it is, before I've done anything, has a visible print. It can also be a print that may be left in some sort of substance that would actually leave the copy, like paint, for instance. Paint can leave the actual detail from your skin on the surface that's visible on a piece of fabric. Blood is another type of substance that can also transfer your detail to a piece of fabric. I do the visual examination first before I proceed with any processing.
Okay, get back to what you just said, but let me go on with one more type of item. What about plastic?
Yes.
Like this is made out of most things are made out of plastic nowadays. Can plastic pick up on a fingerprint?
Yes, it can.
At any point in time, did the state present to you a backpack to test?
I did not have a request for analysis for latent prints for a backpack.
So had there been some blood on the backpack, it could have created a print on the backpack, right?
There could potentially have been a print left in blood on a backpack.
And not having the backpack here, it could be more of a canvas type material or even a plastic type material. But if there was no blood to make a print, you could still possibly see a print?
It depends on the type of material of the backpack and the type of fibers that's actually present. When I get items of evidence, I examine it to see if I can actually process it. Leather items that are woven more tightly so that there are no gaps, so that the gaps won't not allow your rich detail to actually contact it, those can be processed easily for latent prints. Anything that has very loose and obvious holes would not be really good surfaces for processing for latent prints.
What about the plastic, the snapping or apparatuses on a backpack? If I held it and closed it together and they were like a hard plastic, is that possibly something that could be picking up on a print, a latent print?
A plastic apparatus that isn't textured, that would seem reasonable for finding a latent print on it.
Okay. What about metal?
Yes, you can find latent prints on metal.
I know the smaller the item, the harder it would be, right?
That is true. Surface area does create some limitations with latent prints, but it also depends on how the object is handled. So less surface area provides less potential for your skin to contact the surface.
If I was holding a zipper, knowing how small zippers are, say on a backpack, okay, and I'm clasping it, showing my index and thumb finger, I open it up, and then later that bag got tested. Now, that would only be most likely a partial print to my thumb or my finger, correct?
Well, it depends on the size of the zipper, but most latent prints are actually partial prints. It just depends on what type of zipper it is. If it's a flat, smooth brass one that would allow for more surface area, then that provides more of a chance for latent prints, as opposed to a zipper that has holes in it, then that doesn't give you enough surface area potentially for a latent print.
But when you have a pattern like the actual zipper in that hypothetical, a zipper has these, I don't know what you would call them, but a pattern of metal or plastic that allows the track for the zipper. Does that break up the possibility of checking for a print?
From what I'm thinking of, the teeth of the zipper,
Yes, ma'am.
the teeth of the zipper do provide surface area. However, what I'm imagining, it provides also texture, and it provides gaps. So therefore, the latent print would be broken apart with the teeth of a zipper that I'm imagining.
And partial print. How are you able to determine that if you, in this hypothetical that we've been using, say from a backpack, and say from the plastic connectors that allow you to strap your backpack on you, what if you only got a partial print off of that? How are you able to know with some element of certainty that it is assigned to a certain person?
When I analyze evidence, as I'm going through processing, I'm documenting constantly. I start with my visual and take pictures along the way as I go through the entire process. Anytime I find something during each step of processing, I take a picture. Later on, I reference back to that picture to see if it is of value for comparison purposes. So I'm looking at it to see the quality of it. Does it look good? Can I see the details, the rich characteristics within this latent? I'm looking at the quantity of information, which means the size, and if I can see the rich and how many rich characteristics are actually present. I do what's called an analysis. And if during that analysis, I think that I have enough that I can use for a comparison, I will do the comparison to the known. I'll do a side-by-side comparison of the latent to the known, going back and forth between the latent to the known, trying to find what could be an identification or an exclusion to it. Most latent prints are partial prints. They are not fully rolled, complete prints like you would find on a fingerprint card.
Is there a certain amount of area you would need to have certainty?
No, there is not.
Did anyone present you a fanny pack?
I did not have a fanny pack on my request for analysis for latent prints.
Okay, and you know what a fanny pack is, right?
Yes.
Just have to ask. Most girls do, but most people do. So no backpack, no fanny pack. Only the items that you talked about were casings, a gun with tape holding a flashlight at the end of it, correct?
I just had the cartridges, the casings, the magazine, and the rifle with the flashlight.
No radio, no phones.
I did not have anything other than those items for request for analysis for latent prints.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
Ms. Hickman, on the ability to obtain a latent print, obviously, would the environment be a consideration?
Yes, it would.
You've been some time in Arizona?
Yes, I have.
You've been outside in the desert in Arizona?
Yes, indeed.
If something was left outside or on the ground or dragged on the ground or left on the ground for a period of time, is it hard? Do you think it's harder or easier to get a latent print?
I would think it would be more difficult to get a latent print from something that has been exposed to the elements and exposed to potential rubbing of the latent prints off of the surface.
And also, too, is if to get latent prints, in your experience with DPS, what's the onus? What's the goal of a latent print? Is it identification? Identifying who touched an item?
Yes.
That's the ultimate goal?
That is the goal. When I am submitted cases, I am generally asked to find who does this latent print belong to.
And can I use myself as an example?
Sure.
I got my coat on. Would this be a necessary item to do a latent print on to see if I touched my own coat?
Your jacket, his jacket would generally not be an item that I would receive for submission for latent print analysis.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Any questions for this witness from any of the jurors? Seeing none. You are excused, and you prepared yourself very well for your testimony. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Would you like me to leave these here?
Those lawyers will pick that up.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Your
You're
Honor.
excused. And the state can call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Omar Rodriguez.
Yeah, sir. Thanks. Sure.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you, sir. If you come over here to the witness stand, please have a seat. I'm sorry, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Good afternoon. My name is Omar Rodriguez.
And could you tell the jury what you do for a living and where you're employed and how you're employed?
I am a patrol sergeant supervisor for the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office, and I've been a supervisor for about 10 years at this point, and I've been employed at the Sheriff's Office for a total of 17.
17 years?
Correct. 2 of those being in detention, 15 as a sworn officer.
Did you spend some time in the Criminal Investigations Division?
I did.
How long were you in criminal investigations?
From 2012 to 2015. 3 years.
Did you get promoted?
I did promote while in the Criminal Investigations Division.
And so is that why you left the detective unit?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes.
Could you tell the jury just a little bit about your background and your training?
Again, I was hired with the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office back in 2006. I worked as a detention officer for 2.5 years, worked as a transport officer and also at one point lead officer before I was hired as a deputy. Attended the Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Training Center back in 2009, January of 2009, and eventually graduated and became a certified peace officer for the state of Arizona. Came back to the sheriff's office as a sworn officer and worked as a deputy sheriff since 2009 all the way to 2012. During that time, the opportunity to become a criminal investigator was opened at the sheriff's office, which I applied and showed interest, and I became a criminal investigator the year 2012. During that time, the opening for supervisor or sergeant came up as well. Went through the testing process and eventually became a patrol, not a patrol sergeant, I'm sorry, became a sergeant within the sheriff's office while still at the Criminal Investigations Division. Continued working at the Criminal Investigations Division for probably a year before I transferred back to patrol out in the field, where I was assigned a patrol squad with about 5 to 6 deputies that I oversee and supervise. I've been a patrol supervisor since 2015. The year 2021, December 2021, I'm sorry. In the year 2022, in December, I became the training coordinator for the sheriff's office. I was assigned to the office as an administrative sergeant, which I was in charge of monitoring training for the deputies, for the entire department, for the detention division, and making sure that everyone was in compliance with training as per AZ Post standards. After that, during that time, I've been a defensive tactics instructor since 2018, a firearms training instructor since 2022, physical training instructor, field training coordinator, and currently I was assigned back to the patrol division, which I've been supervising one of the squads out on the road for the past 2 months, I believe. No, I'm sorry, since December, 4 months. And that's where I'm currently at right now.
And Sergeant Rodriguez, you're here today in your uniform. Could you tell me why you're not wearing a suit today?
I was actually working out in the road when I received the call this morning that I needed to be here for the trial, and I didn't have time to go back home and change and come back.
Counsel,
And-
let's pick this up.
Oh, sure. Sergeant, I'm sure it's just your normal standard procedure, but I understand you have an earpiece in.
I do.
Could you
but
take it out
my
for
radio
us?
has turned off.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting us know that. So I understand y'all were a little short-handed today, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, Sergeant Rodriguez, you became involved in the George Allen Kelly case on January 30th of 2023, is that right?
Yes.
And can you tell me, were you dressed that day as you are today?
Correct.
And I'm going to ask you to, if with the court's permission, to stand up for the jury. Can you show the jury on your uniform, do you carry gloves?
I do, which are right here.
And are those disposable gloves?
Yes.
Could you go ahead and have a seat? Thank you. And why do you carry gloves on your person when you're on patrol?
As a first responder, we normally respond to calls for service where there's medical need, and sometimes we might arrive before emergency services or the fire department, so we might need to render aid. We always try to wear gloves for any biohazard. Also, when there's any processing of evidence, we also do not want to contaminate that, and we might use gloves for that as well.
And Sergeant, what was the time that you became involved in the George Allen Kelly case?
That I became directly involved, it was 1756 or 1755, and that's 5:55 p.m., 5:56 p.m.
Did you actually learn about the case prior to that?
I did have some knowledge, yes.
And could you just tell the jury what that knowledge was, what your information was?
Okay. As I mentioned before, I worked for the, back then I was assigned to the administrative sergeant position, which I had an office at the sheriff's office, headquarters here on Congress. And while working in my computer, I usually monitor Spillman, which is the database that we use for any calls for service, any traffic that goes on. We usually monitor that. Also, my radio is usually on. And one of the reasons that I monitor the radio is because as a peace officer, I still have to respond to any sort of emergency. Being part of the SWAT team, I'm also responsible for responding to any emergency. So earlier that day, I do not recall the exact time. It was sometime between 2:30 and 3 p.m. While in my office, I heard of a call that came in as a possible active shooter incident, which was deputies from the sheriff's office, along with Border Patrol, had responded to the address of 100 Sagebrush in Keno Springs Drive, which is in Nogales, within Santa Cruz, our jurisdiction as well. And they responded because someone from the ranch had called Border Patrol, telling them that there was an active shooter, that somebody was...
Objection narrative.
Sustain.
Let me just back you up a little bit. You said this was at 100 Sagebrush, is that right?
Correct.
Do you know if this address has more than one address?
Yes.
Okay, and do you know what the other address is?
1100 Willow Cross Circle.
And are you certain about the 1100?
I'm sorry, 100 Willow Cross Circle.
So I think the point I was trying to ask you about was it sounds like you were monitoring the earlier traffic on the first call. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you had some information based on that earlier call?
Yes.
All right. And then when you heard the call come out at 5:55, what's the first thing that you did?
I advised that I was responding due to the close proximity. I was working Operation Stone Garden at that point, which is something that we can do after hours. So at 1700 hours, I started, or at 5 p.m., after 5 p.m., I went out to the road and patrol under Operation Stone Garden, and I was close to the call when it came through the radio, and I responded to the location.
Do you know what time you got there?
It was after 6:16 p.m. maybe.
Okay. And when you arrived at the location, what did you see?
When I arrived, I saw Deputy Lopez, Rafael Lopez.
And just to clarify, the location you arrived to was the Kelly property?
At that point, I didn't know who the owner was, but it was later identified that it was Mr. George Kelly's property, yes.
Okay, and that's the 100 Willow Cross Circle or 100 Sagebrush, whichever address?
Correct.
Okay. And so then when you responded there at 6:15 p.m., what did you see when you arrived?
I went through the gate of the property, and there was sort of a driveway, and at the end of the driveway, at the corner of the property, I saw Mr. George Kelly and Deputy Lopez next to horse trailer and next to Deputy Lopez's patrol car.
And what did you do when you saw Mr. Kelly and Deputy Lopez?
I approached both of them to talk to them.
And did you make any observations as you approached?
They were having a conversation. As far as other observations, I don't
Okay.
recall.
Based on what you heard from the radio traffic earlier, did you have a concern about whether Mr. Kelly might be armed?
I did.
Okay. Did you notice whether Mr. Kelly was armed when you first approached?
Not at first.
What's the first thing you did when you approached Mr. Kelly and Deputy Lopez?
I made contact with Mr. Kelly, and I asked him if, my first question was if we had been at his property earlier in the day.
And how did he respond?
He said yes, and he added, but this happened after you guys left.
And then what did he say after that?
He said that it happened after we left. I asked him what he meant. He said that he found a person in his property.
And did you ask him what he meant by finding a person?
I asked him what he meant. and then his response was, he mentioned that there was an incident about a female that had passed away before. I do not recall if he said recently or in a different year, but he mentioned a female that had passed away, and he said it was a similar incident. So my follow-up question to him was directly ask him, is there a dead person on your property?
And how did he respond?
He said, yes, there was.
And did he say anything else to you about his, how he was feeling at that moment?
He did mention he was nervous about the situation.
And then what did he say after that?
I remember asking him at that point if he was armed, because I mentioned I heard and I learned that you were armed earlier when deputies made contact. Are you armed today? And he said yes. And
Did he do anything else at that point?
no, he unzipped. I remember he was wearing a jacket, unzipped his jacket, and showed me a handgun that he had on his waist, on his right side, in a holster.
And what did you do at that point?
At that point, I asked him if he felt uncomfortable walking, because he had already mentioned that he was going to take us to where the body was located. And I asked him if he was uncomfortable walking around without a firearm. And he said he was uncomfortable because there was dangerous people out there.
And what did you ask him at that point?
I asked him to please secure the firearm there before we continued or went to look for the person, because I told him that Deputy Lopez and I were already armed, and there was no need for him to be carrying a firearm at that point, and to trust us. That was my comment to him.
And how did he respond?
He complied. He said yes, and walked towards the trailer, because I think I asked him to put it in the trailer, or that was the only location that we could see at that point. And he said he will fully cooperate with us. And then the comment he made, having a dead body in my backyard is a big problem.
What did he tell you about what he had done at the location of the body?
Before we started walking, I asked him where the body was. He pointed towards the east direction, I will say, of the property. And he said he had placed a flashlight on a tree right next to the body's location. And he did comment, hopefully the flashlight hasn't died, or the battery hasn't died.
Okay. Do you know what time it was that you headed out with Mr. Kelly toward the body?
It had to be within 2-3 minutes of me arriving. We didn't spend too much time talking.
If your report indicated 16 or 18:21, does that sound accurate?
Again, it was very close to my arrival.
Okay. And can you tell me what you observed as you headed that direction?
We walked outside the fence. There was, I believe, a fence around the property. We walked on the other side of the fence, outside the property, sort of north of where we were standing at that point, which is the horse trailer. Walked outside, started walking. I asked where the person was, and he did point out to sort of east direction. And we kept walking along the fence line north. At one point, I do remember shifting sort of northeast from the fence line. And there was 2 Labradors with us. Those were Mr. Kelly's dogs. So we continued walking. I remember the dogs taking off, and then they started smelling at a distance.
Objection narrative.
Sustained.
And if I could just stop you for a minute, because I want to show you an exhibit. Showing you now what's been marked as State's Exhibit 115. And I've zoomed in the exhibit just a little when it pops up. Oh. Okay. Here we go. Let me zoom that in again. Does this look familiar?
It looks like the Kelly property on Willow Cross.
Do you see the area where the trailers were located?
Yes.
And are there trailers actually, is there some kind of trailer actually in this aerial photo?
You can see a shadow, looks like a trailer.
Could you take the stylus in front of you, touch the left corner of your screen, and then circle the area where the trailers were that you met up with Mr. Kelly?
Okay, it's,
And after you met with them at the trailer, you said you walked along a fence line sort of to the north. Could you show us where that is and which direction that was?
okay.
Okay. And then, so you followed along the fence line, you said?
We followed along the fence line. I can't tell you exactly at what point on the fence line, but we started moving in the northeast direction.
Okay, so at some point he directed you, or you saw something that directed you more to the east, northeast?
The dogs.
Okay, and so you saw the dogs. What were the dogs doing?
The dogs, again, took off from where we were walking, and they were doing something in the brush. However, I couldn't see anything at that point. As I got closer, I remember seeing the flashlight on the tree, and that's where we kind of headed to from that direction, which it could have been at that point more east from the property, from the house.
Okay, and so was it, when you headed towards the body, was that on the east side of the dirt path in the map, or was it on the west side of the dirt path in the map?
Can you repeat that question again?
Sure, there's a dirt path, a little dirt road in the map?
You're talking about this two-track right here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you go to the east of that dirt path when you headed toward the body, or was that to the west of the dirt path?
It was to the east. We crossed that two-track or dirt path.
Okay. And you said it was near a tree, is that right?
Yes.
And what was in the tree?
The flashlight was on the tree.
As you headed that direction and you saw the dogs sniffing, did Mr. Kelly say anything at that point?
He did mention that the dogs usually alert him to anything out there, which he mentioned to us. And he also said rigor is starting to set in, which it was surprising to me.
Okay. And do civilians normally give you that kind of detail?
In my experience, no.
What did you think that meant when he said rigor was starting to set in?
My opinion or my mindset at that
Objection
point.
calls for speculation.
Well, rephrase the question.
Sure.
It's a little vague.
What
Sustained.
What do you take the word rigor to mean if someone says rigor? What do you think rigor is?
Rigor means rigidity or stiffness in a person's body
And when does that usually happen? Do you know?
after death.
When he told you that rigor was starting to set in, why did that cause you, why were you surprised by that, and what was the implication of that?
It made me think that he had already touched the person.
And why would that be?
Because how can I tell something is rigid or stiff if I don't feel it?
Okay. After those comments, did you actually come up to the body? Did you find the body?
We continued walking, and at one point we saw the body once we crossed that path.
And after you crossed the path, can you tell me, you said you saw a tree. Did you cross around the north side of the tree or the south side of the tree?
We were on the north side of the tree.
When you crossed around the north side of the tree, what did you observe?
As we continue walking, I saw the brush, and a few feet more that we walked, we saw the body of a person laying down, face down or in the prone position as we approached.
And what was the light like when you got to the body?
There was still light.
And you talked about the brush. Could you describe for the jury what the brush looked like?
The brush was a dry brush. It was probably over our knees at that point. And there was some areas that were dense and some others that you could easily see. But that particular area, I think the brush was probably over our knees or close to our knees.
And you said some areas were dense and some were not. What was the area like near the body?
Near the body, it was dense. It was, again, I did not see the body until I was probably 10 to 15 feet from it.
Would it have been difficult to locate it?
From a distance, yes.
If you didn't see the dog sniffing around, would it have been possible to walk right past it?
If I was far enough, yes.
When you saw the body, did Mr. Kelly make another comment at that point?
Yes.
And what comment did he make at that point?
He asked, "Is that blood?"
And did that cause you some concern?
At that point, he asked if there was blood, and based on the previous comment of, I know there's already, or I think there's already rigor setting in, to me that was contradicting, which you're asking me if there's blood, but you know there's rigor, so I felt that he was contradicting himself at that point.
Can you tell me when you got to the body, can you give us a rough estimate about how far the body was from the back of the Kelly residence?
I will say it was at least a football field, which that's how I estimate it to be over 100 yards.
When you walked up toward the body, what was the first thing you observed?
The first thing I saw was blood on the right side of the person's back. And first thing I wanted to check was if this person is alive, if I need to render aid.
And what's the first thing you did?
Put on my gloves, go check on the person.
And when you checked on the person, what was the first thing you checked after you put your gloves on?
I checked for a pulse on his neck. I was looking for a pulse on his neck, on the left side of his face. Or neck, I'm sorry. Left side of his neck.
And after you checked for a pulse on his neck, what's the next thing you did?
I didn't find a pulse, so I went to his left arm, which was extended out, making sort of a 45 to a 90-degree angle between forearm and bicep. While checking for a pulse on his neck, I felt that the subject was already cold to the touch on the neck area. I did feel some stiffness, and I moved to his arm to try and get that pulse. And I also noticed that he was cold to the touch, and there was no pulse. And I did feel some stiffness or rigidity on his arms as well.
When you checked his neck, did you notice anything in that area?
He was stiff, he was rigid, and he was cold. And I also noticed that his jaw was stiff as well.
So I want to make sure I got this. You said no pulse on the left neck. Is that right?
Yes.
And you checked his,
Objection leading,
I'm just making sure I
repeating
got
the
it all, Judge.
testimony.
Sustain. Ask another question.
Did I ask you about his left cheek?
No.
What did you notice about his left cheek?
It was cold to the touch.
Did I ask you about his right arm?
No.
Could you tell the jury what you observed about his right arm?
His right arm was tucked in inside his chest.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, could the witness stand up and demonstrate for the jury how the victim's body was positioned?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and that's how you found the body?
Yes, face.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. And I'm sorry, I heard you say something, but you weren't on the microphone. Could you say how the body was positioned again?
It was face down with his face pretty much sunk in the dirt.
Sunk in the dirt?
Yes.
Okay.
And his right arm in here, again, left arm out here. I do not recall the exact angle, but it was out extended. And his tricep was close to his torso here.
Okay. And so I want to make sure I made a good record, and I was distracted by counsel. Could you tell us for the record where the right hand was?
It was in front of his chest,
Right in front of his chest?
tucked in into his chest.
And I see you making a motion with the hand. What was he doing? What was happening with the right hand?
It was under his body in front of his chest, like this, tucked into his chest.
Okay. But the hand, I see you making a gesture with the hand
Oh.
itself.
No, I mean, I don't remember if he had a closed fist or not, but his hand was in here.
Okay, so somehow tucked up
Yes.
in that
Again,
direction.
I don't recall if it was closed fist, open fist, but it was in here.
And then left arm, you said,
It was extended out. I do not remember if the angle from forearm to bicep, but it was somewhere out here.
and I think you said extended, is that right?
Yes, extended out.
Okay. And then, was he face down or face up?
He was face down.
And as you walked east and you crossed that path, did you see the right side of his body or the left side of his body?
The right side of the body.
And was his head south or north?
The head was pointing south,
And the feet?
north.
So the head is south, feet are north, and the right side of the body is facing you as you're walking east.
Facing us as we're walking east.
Can you tell me, with relation to the Kelly residence, which side of the body was closest to the Kelly residence, the right side of the body or the left side of the body?
The right side of the person's body.
And I want to go back to what you said about his face. You said his face was sunken into the dirt. Could you describe that for the jury, please?
Yes, as I approached the person's face was in the dirt, which made it hard for me to even see his nose or his lips. I was only able, from the side, I was only able to see his cheek maybe and up this area. I was not able to see his mouth or nose because it was inside the dirt. That's the way I can describe it.
What was your concern at this point?
If the person was breathing or not.
So what did you do next?
I remember grabbing his left shoulder and lifting to see the person's face and body, but at that point, there was blood in front of his face. There was blood underneath his chest. So at that point, I really thought that the person was dead. There was no point in me continuing trying to get a pulse or trying to see if the person was alive, because he was not.
Were you able to tell if he was breathing at that point?
No, he was not.
Was there any way at that point, because of the way the body was positioned, to check the victim's breathing without moving him?
No.
When you moved him that 3 inches you described, did you disturb anything on him?
No.
And tell us how you did that and why you know that.
Again, I tried moving him from his shoulder, so I used my hand, lifted his body enough so I could see. Once I saw the pool of blood under his chest and blood on his face, under his face, at that point, again, I wanted to make sure that person was alive, but he was not. So once I saw that, I said, I am no longer touching him. This is a dead person. I need to maintain as much as we can.
Did you notice anything about his jacket at this point?
Yes, he had a wound or an injury on the right side of his back, and the injury or wound was consistent with a perforation on his jacket, or a puncture wound could be.
Did Mr. Kelly make some comments at this point?
Yes.
What did he say?
While examining the body, I mentioned it seems like an entry wound. That was my comment to Deputy Lopez, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Kelly heard me as well. He said something about having a medical background, and also made the comment of the bullet went through the lung and heart.
Mr. Kelly said that?
Yes.
What did you do next?
I continue checking the area. I checked around the body based on some comments that I heard additionally. Mr. Kelly said that
Before we go there,
Right.
Can you tell me, after you determined that the body was deceased, what did you do?
I advised on the radio that we had a dead person on the radio, which is, we call it, that's the terminology we use, but we pretty much pronounced the person deceased at that point.
So do you know what time you pronounced?
18:24 or 6:24 p.m.
And you started to tell me that you went around the area. At some point, was there something with respect to the dogs?
The dogs continue to walk around the area, so I checked the area to see if there was any indication of a struggle or a fight, something that will indicate that something else had happened.
And did you find anything?
No.
Did Mr. Kelly make any comments at this point?
He did.
What did he say?
He mentioned that maybe there was a shooting away from the location.
Did he tell you where he thought that?
He pointed northeast of the area, or that's where he faced or pointed to, saying that maybe there was a shooting somewhere else and the person had died at that location that we had found him.
Did he say how the person got there?
That he could have walked there after maybe getting injured somewhere else and then falling at his property.
And what was Mr. Kelly's demeanor at this point?
He appeared nervous, in my opinion.
So can you describe for us a difference between scared and nervous?
At that point, I felt that the explanation I received from Mr. Kelly was more of trying to explain why the person was there and why he had died, and did not see any sort of sign that will indicate to me that he was scared of people being in the area.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to speculation. He doesn't know.
Your Honor, I think he can explain his observations of the witness.
Yeah, I think he was just explaining his observations, so the objection's overruled.
And I felt during my assessment of the area that he was more concerned about giving me or us as deputies an explanation of why the person was dead instead of being scared of his surroundings. He never asked about somebody coming to us or being worried that somebody would approach with a firearm. No comments of that nature were made. So.
Okay. And you talked about looking around on the area. Did you see any trail of blood?
No, once I asked Deputy Lopez to leave the area with Mr. Kelly, I checked and I couldn't find anything that will indicate that the person was injured and walked to the area.
Okay, let's back up just a second then. When you said you asked Deputy Lopez to leave with Mr. Kelly, why did you do that?
I asked him to take the dogs with him and go back to where the trailer was, just so we could disturb the less possible of the scene. And based on the comments, that's when I started thinking about the earlier call, the shooting call. So at that point, I suspected that there was some involvement coming from the Kelly house.
And so tell us then, after Mr. Kelly and Deputy Lopez left, exactly what you did.
They left to the trailer. I remained there, checked surrounding area of the body, looking for footprints, looking for trail of blood, looking for anything that will indicate that the person was injured somewhere else, signs of struggle, drag marks, anything that will indicate to me that the person did not die there.
And did you see anything like that?
No.
Did you see any foot traffic or anything of that nature at all?
No.
And and I think you said it was light when you arrived. Was it still light as you were making this search?
It was very close to dusk, so the sun was going down. So at one point, we did lose light. But during my search of the area, there was still enough light for me to see any foot traffic. But eventually, I had to use my flashlight.
And you talked about seeing a pool of blood under the victim. I know you only moved him a little bit, but where were you able to see blood when you first just looked under his shoulder?
It was under his chest, the center of his chest, and I saw the side here. You could see that there was blood.
So that's the part you were able to see?
Yes.
Did you lift his face at that point, or did his face lift at that point when you checked his breathing?
If it did, it was probably just as much that I could see blood under his mouth area, and that's it.
So you did see blood under his mouth?
Yes.
All right. Did you see any other blood near the body?
No.
So the only blood you saw under the chest and under the face?
Yes.
After you made your observations, and based on what you knew from the radio traffic you'd heard earlier that day, what did you ask Deputy Lopez to do?
I called Deputy Lopez on the radio, and I asked him to secure the firearm that was left in the trailer, horse trailer.
And what was the purpose of securing the handgun while you all were at the crime scene?
The main purpose was officer safety. Again, at that point, I suspected that there was some involvement. However, Mr. Kelly was not detained at that point. I just didn't feel comfortable, or as far as for officer safety, for the firearm to be unsecured.
Who did you call at this point?
I remember getting on the radio, calling. First thing I asked for was the detectives to respond for the investigation. I remember having dispatch get a hold of either an ATF canine or dog, so they could start putting them on standby, so they could start sniffing the area for possible bullets, casings, anything that would indicate that something had occurred. I think I also requested contact with Border Patrol to see if they had any cameras in the area that were close by to the location so they could start seeing and see if they could pick up any movement, anything prior to us arriving there.
It's time for our mid-afternoon break. Good time to stop?
Thank you. Yes, Judge.
All right, very well. It's time for our mid-afternoon break. Thank you. Call the jury. Can we have the witness? Where's the witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, there he is.
Would you like him to take the stand?
Sure.
What's that?
You're trying to hide behind that big guy, huh?
Pardon?
Trying to hide behind that big guy?
I tried. Is it okay if I grab some water?
Yeah, of course. How you doing, Denise? You all right? Oh, yeah. Jet rocket fuel. Elon Musk. Right. Thank you. Everyone, please have a seat. The record will show the presence of all the jurors, counsel, and the defendant, and the state can continue with its direct examination of the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Rodriguez, I think we were talking about the folks you'd called out, and we had detectives, ATF, K-9, and Border Patrol for cameras. Was there anyone that we missed that you called to the scene at this time?
I could have called somebody else, I just don't remember at this point.
Okay. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And then, what was the next thing that happened after you made those calls?
I remained with the dead body and waited for other deputies to arrive to the scene.
And at some point, did the sergeant of the detectives arrive?
Yes,
Was that Sergeant Al Flores?
yes.
And when Sergeant Flores arrived, at some point, did you talk to Detective Ainza?
No, I don't recall seeing him.
You don't. He didn't come to the scene, but did you talk to him at some point to brief him on what you had?
I don't remember, ma'am.
Did you brief Sergeant Flores?
I did.
When Sergeant Flores arrived, did you tell him all of the information you'd received from Mr. Kelly and what you were observing at the scene?
Yes.
And what I want to show you now what's been marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 56B. Do you recognize that? Or let me ask you this. I'm sure you don't recognize it. Can you tell me if the area where the green line ends and it comes to a point with the red line, if that's consistent with the location of the body?
It is.
And for demonstrative purposes only, I want to make sure I understand the position and orientation of the body with respect to the house as you described it. So I'm going to, if we can just have the screen for the witness and counsel. If I put that little figure into the screen, of course it's not to scale or anything of that nature, but just for orientation purposes, is that accurate with respect to the orientation of the body?
It is.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes, I'd ask to publish to the jury.
For that reason, no objection.
Go ahead.
So when Sergeant Flores arrived, what did you and Sergeant Flores do?
Before he arrived, I left Deputy, I don't recall if he was already a corporal, but Deputy Pedro Felix, batch number 154. I left him with the decedent for evidence purposes, and then I walked back towards the trailer to meet with Sergeant Flores.
So you left Pete Felix in charge of the scene? Is that what I understand? Okay. And so he's there to guard the body and be in charge of the scene?
Yes.
And you go over, and is that when you fill in Sergeant Flores by the trailer?
Yes, as we walked towards the scene, I gave him a briefing of what my observations had been to that point.
At some point, did lights arrive?
Yes.
Do you know if that was before, after, or at some point after Sergeant Flores arrived?
I do not recall at what point the generators arrived, but we did get lighting at one point.
Did the lights arrive before you took photographs?
Yes.
And so could you tell the jury what kind of lighting array you all had brought out, if you recall, with the generator?
It was generators, and I don't know the exact name of them, but it's a lighting system that pretty much floods a good area with light for them to process the scene. Or when I say them, I'm referring to CID, Criminal Investigations Division.
And did you assist with processing the scene?
I assisted with the photographing of the body.
So after the lights arrived, what did you and Sergeant Flores do?
Sergeant Flores took some pictures of the surrounding area next, or in the immediate surrounding area of where the body was located. And once he moved to the body, I assisted by moving the person while he took the photographs.
Okay, so let's start. I forgot to ask you a question earlier with respect to the body. Did you make any observations about a backpack on the body as it was positioned on the ground?
Yes.
What did you observe? And this observation, I want to know what you observed as you first arrived before you touched the body.
As I first arrived on the right side of the person, I saw the backpack on the person's head, not on his back, but on his head. As the person fell, it moved towards the front of his head, and then
Objection, that calls for speculation.
Sustained. So that last answer is stricken as to how the backpack moved. Let's start with another question.
Sure. And so I just want to make sure I understand the observation of the backpack. How was the backpack positioned on the body? What did you observe?
it was on the person's head.
Okay. And was it still attached to the body? And you said it's on the head. How is it on the head?
It was resting on top of the person's head, possibly past his head, but it was not on the back.
Will the photos document what you observed?
Yes.
And when you lifted the body a couple of inches, did that disturb the backpack in the way that it was?
No, not at all.
So I want to talk to you about the photographs that Sergeant Flores took. Did you watch him take the photographs?
Of the body?
Yes.
Yes. Not the surrounding. I wasn't paying attention at that point.
Okay. And so did Sergeant Flores take photographs before you moved the body, other than what you described already of checking to see if if the person was alive?
Yes, he did take photographs before we moved him for any reason.
And then after Sergeant Flores started to had taken the initial set of photographs, what did you all do?
Could you repeat that question?
Sure, what did you all do? I think you said you assisted with moving the body. How did you move the body? What did you do?
The first thing we did, we cut I cut the straps of the backpack because they were still on the person.
Why did you cut the straps as opposed to trying to remove the backpack from the person?
I would have not been able to remove the backpack without cutting it, without disturbing the body. So I had to cut the straps, and I want to say we cut both of them in order for us to remove the backpack from the person's body. It was still attached to the person.
While you were at the scene, did you check the backpack?
I did.
And what were you checking for?
I was trying to find any sort of weapon or contraband or drugs because we would not send that to the office of. We will not send that to the office of the medical examiner for processing.
So there are certain things you can't send with the body to the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. And did you find any weapons in the backpack or on the person?
No,
Did you find any drugs in the backpack or on the person?
no.
What did you find in the backpack?
There was sweaters or jackets, and there was canned food.
And Detective, or Sergeant, I want to go over with you the backpack. And I think we have it marked as 78? Your Honor, so I'd ask Detective Ainza to gather Exhibit 78 and take it to the witness. And are there gloves up there for him? Oh, okay. Detective, if you could open the package on the table, and we'll have the witness come down if that's okay with the court. Thank you, Detective. Sergeant, could you take a look inside the bag and see if you recognize the items inside?
Yes.
Okay. Sergeant, do you recognize the items inside the bag? Do you recognize all of the items inside the bag?
As far as what I can see, yes.
Okay. And how is that bag marked?
Item 16JA.
And how do you recognize all of the items inside the bag?
I recognize the backpack as being the one I saw on the body, the fanny pack that was on his right side, and there's also a ball cap that I remember he was wearing when he was face down.
Okay.
And there's some sweaters that I remember that we took out.
Those are items you took out of the backpack, is that what you said?
When we photographed it, yes.
Okay. And, Your Honor, I'd move for admission of State's Exhibit 78, which is the backpack, the fanny pack, and the items inside the backpack.
Your Honor, items inside the backpack is vague. I'd like for him to see what's inside of it before I can read it.
I really can't see anything from here, so I'm not sure what the,
Take them out?
Your Honor, my concern was that if he takes them out, then the jury's going to observe them, so I was trying to be cognizant of that fact.
I'm sorry, but he can't identify something that he doesn't know for sure what's in there, nor can I. So either someone hold the bag and let him pull it out discreetly, and so we all know what's inside this bag before we admit it.
I'll defer to the court how you'd like to handle it, Your Honor.
well, can you just move that around? I can't see, move it a little bit this way so I can actually see what we're looking at there. So these other items,
They were items that were contained in the backpack, I believe the witness indicated, Your Honor, that they removed from the backpack at the scene.
The fanny pack was.
so not, whatever we're going to look, whatever you're talking about, is it inside the backpack or inside the bag?
It's inside the backpack, Your Honor, and the fanny pack was never inside the backpack, so that's not a true statement.
Your Honor, counsel's testifying, but I'm sure
All right,
that
I'm
the
gonna
witness
step
can clarify where the fanny pack was.
She said it was in.
Okay.
I really don't think the jury can see much from where they're sitting, so why don't you just pull the individual items out, keep them as much as you can within that orange bag, see what you can see, and then we can ask questions from there. Any objection for that from the defense?
No, I just want to see what's in it before, so he can prove it, not just items. And just- Your Honor, just for the record, some of those things were found on the body, and then maybe some of them were contained in. Now that I have seen each one, I want, if he could identify each one and tell the court that he has recognized each one, I would have no objection after that.
Well, what about the identification of where the items were located when they were put in, before they were put into
I'm
evidence?
happy to go into that, Your Honor, and I'm sure that when we go over the photos in a minute, it'll clarify as well.
All right, I don't think I really don't think this is a major controversial thing, so I think that'll work.
Sergeant Rodriguez, do you recognize all the items in that red bag?
Not all of them.
Okay, which items don't you recognize?
There's a red sweater and a gray T-shirt, and I don't recall seeing it.
We need you to use the
Could
microphone.
have been there, but I don't remember.
Okay. if they're in your photograph, in the photographs you and Sergeant Flores took, would that help refresh your recollection?
Probably, yes.
Okay. Other than that, the other items in the bag, do you recognize everything other than those two items?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of State's Exhibit 78, minus the red sweatshirt and the gray T-shirt, subject to later foundation by another witness.
With that, I will agree, and as long as he stipulates where they were located later. Not all contained in the backpack.
I understand. All right. The items identified within Exhibit 78 are admitted.
Sergeant, could you please remove the backpack and the fanny pack from exhibits, with the court's permission? May I publish?
Yes.
Could you please remove?
I'm sorry, any objection from the defense?
No. As far as publishing, no objection. Thank you, Your Honor.
Could you please remove the backpack and the fanny pack from State's Exhibit 78, please? Yeah, let's start with the backpack first, please. Yes. And can you please point for the jury where you cut the straps on the backpack? Okay. And when you first saw the backpack, can you tell us what condition it was in?
The backpack was on the person's head. The backpack was on the person's head. I want to say past his head like this. And
And-
the straps were still attached to the person.
And do you have any recollection of whether the zippers were zipped or unzipped?
I do not recall if they were unzipped. I do remember unzipping the bag to take out the items.
Okay. And could you now take out the fanny pack for us, please? And is that the condition the fanny pack was in when you observed it?
As far as the straps or?
Yes, the straps. Do you recall?
This is the fanny pack. I just don't remember if it was broken or not.
Okay. Does it appear to be broken?
The buckle seems to be broken.
Okay, thank you. And could you perhaps show the backpack a little so that the jury can actually see it? And
You
maybe
can
pull the
walk,
straps?
you can step up and towards the jury and just walk the length of the jury box.
And could you show them the fanny pack as well? And can you show us the items inside that you recognize?
I recognize the hat. He was wearing it.
Can you tell us how he was wearing it and what you observed about the hat when you first saw it before you moved the body?
When the person was facing down, the visor of the cap was in front of his forehead, almost covering his eyes, as if when he went down, it stayed like this. My head is down, the hat was like this.
Okay. And then any other items inside the backpack you recognize?
I don't recognize seeing this. Again,
You can put that back in. The ones you don't recognize, just leave those in there.
You want me to take out what I recognize?
Yes.
I remember this one.
And that's a black hat, for the record?
Beanie or hat.
And it's black in color, is that right?
Black, yes.
Okay.
I remember this sweater as well.
And for the record, is that a black sweatshirt, and does it have some words on it?
Yes.
Do you know what it says?
It says, "Treat people with kindness."
Okay. And then what's the next thing that you recognize?
Yeah, the other two items inside, I do not remember seeing them.
Okay. And then you also said there were some food items in the backpack, is that right?
Yes.
And those are no longer in the backpack, is that right?
No, they are not.
Can you tell us why that is?
I remember it was tuna cans
Okay.
and some other canned items for edible items.
Do you know if there's a policy at the Sheriff's Department regarding perishable items?
We do not store them in the evidence room.
So would those have been destroyed pursuant to policy?
Yes.
You photograph that, though, is that correct?
Pardon me?
You photograph it before you destroy it?
Sergeant Flores.
Yeah, okay. Okay, you can have a seat, thank you. And I think I'm going to need an item. I'm not sure that we had you bring it in, so if I could tell you what that item number is. It's the wallet. Item number 79. After you looked through the backpack, or maybe before you looked through the backpack, at some point did you discover a wallet?
Yes.
Where did you discover the wallet?
The wallet was on the person's right rear pocket of the pants.
So right rear pocket, like right on the cheek, or
It was
somewhere
on
else?
yes, on the cheek, on the normal pant pocket of the cheek.
Okay.
Of the buttock.
And what did you discover inside the wallet?
There was some pictures, photographs, one of the Mexican electoral cards, and some Mexican currency, cash in paper bills.
So there was actually money in the wallet?
Yes.
And you said there's a Mexican electoral card. Can you tell the jury what you understand that to be?
My understanding of that is as far as I understand, every citizen in Mexico, when they're of age to be able to vote, they get a unique card to them with a unique number. And that's pretty much their ID card for official identification purposes.
So would that be similar to what we use for our driver's license in the United States, or our passport?
It's more of a federal official card because they do have licenses throughout the states.
So
So
more
yes.
like a passport then?
Yes.
Now, after you searched the backpack and the wallet, what did you all do next?
We proceeded to move the person to face up.
And what did you observe about the body at that point when you flipped the deceased person over?
At that point, confirmed my observations of more blood towards the inside of, or the center of his chest, and his face also was bloody.
Did you notice anything else about the face?
It appeared that the face was, there was injury to the face, I'm assuming when he fell. It was, the nose was swollen.
Objection to the assumption. He has no personal knowledge.
Overruled.
And what did you observe specifically about the nose and the face?
The face and the nose was bloody. There was dirt around his face, and also, of course, pale skin, which is also another indication of death. I'm sorry.
Did you notice an exit wound?
We had to unzip the jacket that he had. It was full of blood on the front. We unzipped the jacket, and we did notice what appeared to be a wound.
And when you looked at the two wounds, what did you believe this was?
I believe that was possibly an exit wound from a projectile.
Did you look at the other wound as well?
Yes.
And where did you see the exit wound?
It was in the center of the chest.
Were we able to get that? Okay. That's okay. And I want to chat with you now. About the photographs. You and Al Flores, or I suppose Sergeant Al Flores, took the photographs, but you were present for them. Is that right?
Yes.
So I want to talk with you about those photographs. Did you look at a CD labeled number 1AF, and did you initial and date that?
I did.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 116. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what does that item appear to be?
It appears to be a CD containing some data or photographs.
Is that the CD that you observed?
Yes,
And did you look through that CD?
I did.
And were any of those, and I'm not sure why could we hold off? Thank you. Did you look through all of those photographs?
Yes,
Did the photographs appear to be in the order in which you all did your work that night?
yes,
Did you recognize all of the photographs on the CD?
yes.
Okay.
Except for the first one.
Okay, we'll go through those before we show them to the jury. So could the witness have the screen? And counsel? Okay. So we're starting with the first photograph on that CD. Do you recognize that photograph?
I did. I remember seeing it, yes.
Okay. Do you know what this picture is of?
No.
Okay. I'm going to move to the next picture. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that photograph is?
Is the person of the decedent facing, the picture is facing south.
And I'm going to go back to the first picture. Just for the record, in the upper left, does that say IMG_0023.jpg?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to refer to those just as image 23 and image 24, et cetera, going forward. So you do not recognize image 23, is that right?
I don't.
You recognize image 24?
Yes.
Is there a problem with the screen? Do we need to
Just
adjust
the
it?
glare of the light. I'm just.
Your Honor, can we perhaps adjust that a bit for the witness so he can see the photographs?
Valerie, Larry,
There it is.
Is it better?
Yes.
Oh, you moved it? Okay.
we're good, thanks. Thank you.
Do you recognize image 24?
Yes.
25?
Yes.
26?
Yes.
27?
Yes.
28?
Yes.
29?
Yes.
30?
Yes.
31?
Yes.
32?
Yes.
33?
Yes.
34?
Yes.
35?
Yes.
36?
Yes.
37?
Yes.
38?
Yes.
39?
Yes.
40?
Yes.
41?
Yes.
42?
Yes.
43?
Yes.
44?
Yes.
45?
Now I see it, yes.
46?
I remember seeing the sweater, I just didn't see it in the backpack.
Okay. 46, do you recognize this photograph?
Yes,
47?
yes,
48?
yes.
49?
I have a hard time figuring out what that is.
Telling what that is?
Yes,
50?
yes,
51?
yes,
52?
yes,
53?
yes,
54?
yes,
55?
yes,
56?
yes,
57?
yes.
58? Oh, sorry.
I don't see 58.
Sorry, 58?
Yes,
59?
yes,
60?
yes,
61?
yes,
62?
yes,
63?
yes,
64?
yes,
65?
yes,
66?
yes,
67?
yes,
68?
yes,
69?
yes,
70?
yes,
71?
yes,
72?
yes,
73?
yes,
74?
yes,
75?
yes,
76?
yes,
77?
yes,
78?
yes,
You, 79?
yes,
80?
yes,
81?
yes.
82?
That I don't remember seeing it or why it was taken.
Okay, so you don't recognize image number 82, image number 49, and image number 23, is that right?
Yes,
Other than that, do you recognize the remainder of the pictures?
yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of State's Exhibit 78 minus images 24, 49, and 82, which I believe will be able to lay the foundation for with another witness.
Could I
Oh,
please
is that
see
the wrong exhibit number?
Yes, 78 is the correct.
Let me get the right exhibit number, sorry, Judge. Is it 116 on the exhibit you have there?
116, yes.
Your Honor, and for the record, that would be 116 minus images 49, 24, and 82.
Can I please see photo 82 on the screen?
Sure. I think I had it up a minute ago.
It's too fast. This is what number?
And I'm sure counsel can ask Detective Flores about that tomorrow, about these other three photos. I don't anticipate there'll be an issue with them.
Can I take this witness on voir dire about this particular photo? Just a couple questions.
Well, they're not offering this photo through this witness.
Okay, but it's
If
on
I
the
understood
disc.
correctly, right, you're not offering this at this
I'm
time.
not offering this
So
photo.
just curious, if I may ask, if everything is on there and there's minus 3 photos and the jurors later would like to see it, how would they see it with 3 photos missing?
Well, we can deal with that problem if it
Okay.
arises. I understand there's another witness who's going to come in, and the state believes that witness can lay the foundation
For the
these-
other 3?
For these other 3. If he is, and they come into evidence, we don't have a problem. If he
Yes.
can't, and they don't come into evidence, then I'll deal with it then.
He's
Okay.
the photographer, Your Honor.
Okay, with that in mind, I have no objection.
All right, thank you. Exhibit number 116 is received with the exception of the photographs identified as photographs number 24, 49, and 82. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Permission
So,
to publish except those photographs?
Any objection?
No, sir.
And Your Honor, I think it was 23, not 24, pardon me. 24 is one he identified. It's 23. I was incorrect when I said that
Can you
earlier.
go back to 23, just so I know what that is?
Sure.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So with the exception of items, photographs number 23, 49, and 82.
Thank you,
And
Your
you can
Honor.
publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're looking at image number 24. Sergeant, could you tell us what we're looking at here?
That is the photograph of the decedent or the dead person.
Okay. And can you tell the jury the fanny pack, is this the position the body was in when you saw it, and the fanny pack and the backpack when you first arrived?
Yes.
And what are we seeing on the right side of the body?
There's a fanny pack.
Okay. And is that how the fanny pack was positioned when you arrived?
Yes.
And the backpack, you described earlier the backpack sort of being up over the head. Is this how you observed it?
Yes.
Anything else about that picture we're looking at that the jury needs to know?
No.
Showing you exhibit 25, or I'm sorry, image 25 on exhibit 116, is that just another picture from the another angle?
Yes.
Again, is this before you've disturbed the evidence?
Yes.
Is this the same thing, the body in place?
Yes.
And is that a better picture of what you observed with respect to the backpack?
Yes.
Is this another angle of the body in place before you moved anything?
Yes.
And this picture as well?
Yes.
28? Yeah, image number 28.
Yes.
And what are we seeing here in this image?
Is the same individual, however, the picture is taken from a different angle at this point.
Okay, and what are we observing on the victim's back at this point?
We can see the backpack and also the blood on the right side of the back.
And image 29, what are we observing here?
Same individual, and this is taken from a different angle. We can see the back and also some blood, but it's covered by the brush, so you can't see it clearly. And then the backpack, which also it's kind of blocked with the brush there. Sort of.
Is this an accurate depiction of what the body looked like as you approached in terms of the brush?
Yes.
And then is this another picture, image number 30, of the body in place before you disturbed it?
Yes.
Image number 31, what is this depicting?
The person's back and his right side where you see the blood and also the wound or puncture wound.
Could you take the stylus and circle what you believed was the entry wound in this case? And let me ask you, did I ask you whether you thought this was the entry wound? I'm not sure I asked you that.
You did.
Okay. And is this what you believe to be the entry wound?
I believe, yes.
Okay. Anything else about this picture? I see something to the left down below. Do you know what that is?
It was a radio that it was still on the person's waist.
Okay. And then next to that, is that the fanny pack we observed in the other picture?
Yes.
Image number 32, what are we observing here?
Okay. That is the person's back, the backpack covering part of the head, and then the strap to the left side of the backpack, and then the subject's hand to his side.
And is that what you were describing earlier about how the body was positioned when you found it with the left arm out?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury that strap we see, is that the strap that goes around the back, or is that a different strap?
At this point, I still don't know if that strap goes around the back or if it was strapped to the actual fanny pack. I don't know that.
Okay. Does this backpack have straps that go around the waist as well?
I don't remember. I will have to check.
Could you go ahead and, with the court's permission, could he check the backpack, Your Honor, Exhibit 78?
It has the shoulder straps, and it does have a strap that goes around the waist.
Okay, thank you. So if we're looking at the backpack in image 32, is it possible that's the bottom strap with that clip on it?
It is possible.
Okay, so we'll see in a second, I'm sure, some more photographs. Or we'll go back if we need to. Image 33, what are we looking at here?
Again, that's the person's lower back, the belt he's wearing, and then a picture of the right pant pocket and the fanny pack on the side.
And what did you find in the right back pocket?
The person's wallet.
And what are we looking at in image 34?
The left side of the person's leg, or part of the leg, upper leg, the buttock area, and also the pocket on the left side.
And exhibit 35, or image 35?
That is the lower limb on the right side, or the lower leg.
Image 36.
The left leg and the shoes, no, or the boots.
And what are we looking at in image 37?
This is a picture of the person at a different angle. And then the tree that I mentioned earlier that we walked on the north side of it. And at the, up here, if I circle it, can I circle it?
Yes, please.
Right here are the lights of the Kelly residence.
So which direction are we looking in this picture?
This is west of the body.
So we're looking toward the west from the body,
Yes,
toward the Kelly residence.
correct.
Image 38? Could you tell us what that is?
38 is the same, similar image to the previous one. However, there's, you can see more of the lights in the background behind that tree.
Image 39.
That's another picture of the wound of the decedent.
And can you see in this photograph the strap to the fanny pack?
Yes.
And image 40, what are you doing here in this photograph?
It was a photograph of the, again, the hole with, in the fabric of the jacket with a ruler next to it.
Whose hand is in this picture?
That will be my hand.
Okay. And I see that there's something black on your hand. Could you tell the jury what that is?
Those are gloves, disposable gloves.
And those are the gloves that you have on your person?
Yes.
Showing you image 41, is that a similar view of the or a similar view of the gunshot entry wound?
Yes.
And image 42, what does this depict?
Same thing, the wound of the decedent.
And image 43, could you tell us what this is showing?
This is the subject's or decedent's face while he's face down on the ground.
And I see that the face is down, and I see the hat. Is that what you were describing with respect to how the hat was positioned under the body?
Yes.
And could you circle that for the jury just so they see what, I'm sure they can see it, but just in case. And then can you see an unzipped portion of the backpack?
Yes, I do.
And do you know which part of the backpack that was?
I do not recall at this point.
Does it look like from this image Can you tell from this image which portion of the backpack it was?
It seems like it was the left side of the backpack.
Okay. Showing you image 44, can you tell me what this image is?
That is an image of the beanie or hat that we took out from the backpack.
So is this when you started to empty the items from the backpack?
Yes.
And can you tell us what image 45 is?
That is a sweater.
And is that the red sweater that's in the red bag that you identified earlier?
That's the one I did not remember.
Okay, so that, but now that you've looked at this photograph, does that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And now we're looking at image 46. Can you tell us what this is?
That's a sweater as well.
Is that the other item that you weren't able to identify in the red bag?
That item I do not see in the bag.
Okay, can you take a look again, just to make sure?
Yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, if the witness could.
The item is not in the bag.
You don't see the gray T-shirt? All right, thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. And that's image number 46, so we'll move on to image number 47. Is this the sweatshirt you read the words for us a few minutes ago?
Yes.
And image number 48, could you tell the jury what we're seeing here?
There's the items I mentioned before, some of the tuna cans. I don't remember if that was water or some sort of electrolyte, and that's food items.
Okay, thank you. Image 49, oh, I'm sorry, let me just flip past that. Image 50,
That is probably tissue paper. The other item, I don't remember. It could have been candy. I will be speculating at this point.
okay. But you remember viewing these items, is that right?
Yes.
Image 51,
That's also something that was inside the bag, and I think it was food as well.
and are we looking down into the unzipped portions of the bag?
Yes.
Image 52, is this another photograph of the fanny pack and the, can't think of the word. Tell me what it is.
Radio?
Radio, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, my brain isn't working. And are we looking, image 53, are we looking inside the fanny pack at this point?
Yes.
What is that that's inside the fanny pack?
It was something. It was something to eat. I just don't remember what it was.
Okay. And what are we looking at in image 54?
That's when I lifted the subject's shirt and to take a picture of the actual wound.
And image 55?
Same picture or same area of the body, just a different angle.
Okay. And is that is this the entry wound or the exit wound we're looking at?
I believe that was the entry wound.
So that would be on the subject's back?
Yes.
And is this another photograph of the same thing, image 56, only with a measuring device in place?
Yes.
And image 57?
Same area of the body, different picture.
And image 58, what are we looking at here?
The wallet found on the subject's back pocket.
Image 59?
Same.
Image 60, is that inside the deceased person's wallet?
Yes.
And what are we looking at in 61?
Those are some bills in Mexican currency.
Do you know how much currency was in there?
I do not know that.
You weren't in charge of processing the evidence, somebody else was?
No.
Image 62, is that another picture of the victim's wallet?
Yes.
Image 63, is that the Mexican identification card you were talking about, or electoral card you were talking about?
Yes.
And were you able to identify the victim from that Mexican electoral card?
Not at that point.
But you saw his name from this card, is that right?
Yes.
And what was the name on the card?
Gabriel Gabriel Cuen is the last name. Additional is Bautimea.
Image 64, what are we looking at here?
Once we move the body, I believe Sergeant Flores photographed the area of where the blood was, and also the circle where the face would have been before or after we moved him.
So could you describe for us the larger section? What are we looking at with the larger discolored section?
This will be the area of the chest or torso, and this is the area of his face.
And image 65, what are we looking at here?
That's the decedent when we turn him on face up.
And could you describe for us what you were talking about with respect to what you observed on the victim's face?
I saw his, again, I saw dirt. I believe that the nose appeared to be swollen, the blood on his cheek, his mouth, and again, there was a lot of dirt on his face.
Is this the position his hand was in when you flipped him over?
Yes.
And could you describe for the jury what we're seeing here with respect to his right hand in this photograph?
His right hand, again, as I explained before, was tucked into his chest at this point.
And I think you didn't recall specifically how the hand was. Can you tell from this picture how his fingers are at this time?
He was halfway making a fist, maybe.
And we see some other debris there. Can you tell what that debris is?
That's the brush that was underneath the person's body as well.
Did that appear to be consistent with the brush from that location?
Yes.
And what you observed for the debris on his face, did that appear to be consistent with where you saw his face implanted in the dirt?
Yes.
And image 66, are we looking at essentially the same thing, slightly different view?
Yes.
67, is that a better picture of what you observed with his face?
Yes.
And could you tell us what you observe, what we're looking at here with respect to his nose?
It appears that the nose is, again, it appears swollen to me. And it seems like there's injury to the lip or the mouth area.
And is that consistent with how you saw his face implanted in the ground?
Yes.
And now we're looking at image 68. Could you tell us what we're looking at here?
That's the same person. It's just a different area of his body, which is from the neck down all the way to his thigh.
And can you tell us what he's wearing on the top part?
He's wearing the jacket, a grayish jacket. I wouldn't say it's a Carhartt jacket. And the pants seem like a tactical type of pant with some side pockets and the belt.
Would you call those cargo pants?
Cargo pants, tactical pants. I call them tactical, but they're cargo pants pretty much.
And the Carhartt jacket, what are we observing with that discoloration on the jacket?
What portion of the jacket are you
The
talking?
discoloration, what are we observing with respect to the discoloration? If you could just walk us through that.
I don't think I'm understanding the question, ma'am.
What is the discoloration on his jacket? What is that substance on the jacket?
That was the blood from the subject's body.
And image number 69, what are we looking at here?
Same individual, showing the entire torso, arms, and face, and blood on the jacket as well.
Image 70, is that a close-up of the face?
Yes,
And can you see a little more of the damage that you observed to the face?
yes. There's, again, it seems like damage or injury to the lips, mouth.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. We heard from the medical examiner already on this and was not noted. I think you just got pulling going on here. I don't think he knows what this really
I think
is.
this is also getting cumulative and redundant, so let's move on.
Okay.
I mean, we're seeing the same image over and over again without a whole lot of differences. So let's
Okay.
move through this, or either cut some of these out or let's move through these.
I'll go really quick, Judge. 71, is this the image where you unzipped the jacket that you described earlier?
Yes.
72, can you tell us what this photograph is?
There was a cell phone on the left pocket of the person.
And did you collect that cell phone from his left pocket?
It was left to CID, yes.
CID would have handled that.
Yes,
73, is that just another picture of the cell phone?
yes,
74, could you tell us what we're looking at here? Is that where the face implanted
yes,
and the hat?
yes.
75, could you tell the jury what you're looking at here?
That's when we unzipped the jacket and moved the shirt to see where the blood could have been coming from, which was the injury on the chest.
And that's what you described as the exit wound, is that right?
Yes,
76, just a close-up of the same thing?
yes,
77, again, another image of the same thing?
yes.
78, what are we looking at here?
That was the subject's shoe, sole of the shoe.
79, is that a better picture of the same thing?
Same, probably better lighting.
80, is that the other shoe?
Yes,
81, is that the last photograph?
yes,
Same, also a picture of the boot.
yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had for the screen. I had two exhibits.
Larry? Sorry. Yes.
No.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 79. Could you take a look at it and see if you recognize it?
It appears to be the same wallet that we took from the decedent.
Could you take a look and, or could you open that packaging and look inside and see if that is the decedent's wallet?
Yes.
Your Honor, and certain things were released by the court. I just asked to talk about that with the jury.
Jury or with the witness or what?
The court, I don't know how you'd like me to handle it, but the court authorized certain items to be released to the family because they needed them for the estate, including his identification. I just want to explain to the jury why they're not there. And I know this witness would not know that, so. Without showing that to the jury, if you would just hold it down and show it to Ms. Lothorpe, please. Sergeant, do you recognize that item?
Yes.
And what does it appear to be?
The wallet taken from the decedent at the scene.
Some of the items are no longer in the wallet, is that correct?
Some of them.
You're on a move for admission of State's Exhibit 79, which is the brown wallet belonging to the victim.
No objection.
79 is admitted.
And could you tell the jury how that item of evidence is marked with an item number?
Item number 16.1, JA.
Thank you.
Yes.
Show me what's been marked as State's Exhibit 81. Could you tell me what item number that item is marked with?
Item 16.3, JA.
Could you open that item and take a look inside, please?
This is being marked as what?
16.3, JA.
What exhibit number? 81.
Thank you. No objections if she's offering.
81 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. No, that's it.
But I'm not sure we identified what it is yet, so, right?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so let's do that.
Thank you, Judge. I was just about to.
All right.
What is that item of evidence you have in front of you?
It's a cell phone.
Is that the cell phone that was recovered from the victim's body?
It looks like it, yes.
It appears consistent with what you recall and from what you saw in the photographs?
Yes.
And is that how it's marked on the evidence item?
Yes.
And does it indicate it's from victim GCB?
Yes.
And can you tell me, after you turned the body and you noticed the angle of the exit wound, did that tell you anything about the scene?
At that point, I suspected that the angle was consistent with the projectile possibly coming from the Kelly residence.
And what did you do when you made that observation?
At that point,
Yes.
I didn't do anything.
At some point earlier, after you made some other observations, did you make some determinations about the home itself and the scene itself?
Yes, I did.
And what determination did you make?
I remember getting on the radio and letting Sergeant Lluvia Garcia, who had arrived at that point, I asked her to please make contact at the residence and make sure to speak to the occupant and have him exit the residence and secure the property for a possible search warrant at that point.
So tell me a little bit about the process of when you determine that you're going to request a search warrant. What do you do when you decide you need to do a search warrant?
In general, or just this?
Just in general.
The search warrant is obtained after probable cause of a crime exists. So at that point, I suspected that a crime had been committed, in this case, a possible homicide. I suspected that the Kelly residence had involvement, to include the owners. So I suspected that they were involved, and evidence of the crime would have been inside that property. So at that point, we needed to seize the property or take control until we could obtain a search warrant.
So you secure the property until you get the search warrant?
Yes,
And does that include having everyone exit the property?
correct.
And what's the reason why you have everyone exit this property while you obtain the search warrant?
The reason for the exit is to prevent any contamination or any destruction of evidence.
And just to be clear, is that what happened in this case?
Yes,
The residence was secured?
correct.
And after you secured the residence, did you share all that information about what you had done with respect to securing the residence with Sergeant Flores when he arrived?
Yes,
So did that happen before Sergeant Flores arrived?
yes, it did.
And would that be standard procedure to secure a residence and have residents leave while you secure a warrant?
Yes.
Sergeant Rodriguez, do you see Mr. Kelly here in the courtroom?
Yes.
And could you describe what he's wearing and where he's sitting for the jury?
He's wearing a button shirt, blue with squares or squared shirt, a blue vest, and wearing eyeglasses.
Your Honor, would the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant?
Sword.
Your Honor, that's all I had for this witness.
Very well. We're going to take our evening recess. Tomorrow's Friday. Would you like to start at 9 o'clock tomorrow? Or do you want to start at 8:30? We'll end at 4:30 on Friday anyway, but you want to keep going at 8:30 or 9 o'clock? 8:45. How about 8:45? How about that? Gosh, Solomaic decision by the judge. All right, we'll begin then tomorrow at 8:45. Please be in the jury room promptly at 8:45. I'll stay here with counsel. You're excused. Remember the court's admonition, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Your Honor, and could Detective Ainsa handle the evidence?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can all the evidence be brought back tomorrow?
Yes.
What's that? Ask for a stick not to reseal. And Your Honor, we'll defer to the court on whether you believe we need to reseal it overnight. I know it's going to be in court's evidence, whatever the court would prefer that we do.
Observed everything in there, and I have no problem with it not being resealed at this time, as long as it's in the court's custody.
It will be. All right. You can all be seated for a second. This will just take a minute. I just wanted to say that based upon our discussion before lunch, it sounds very much like the parties will be able to come to a final agreement and arrangement for a visitation of the alleged crime scenes. So in anticipation of that, I've set a hearing for Monday morning, April 8th at 10 a.m. on media requests to attend that event. I mean, it seems like it's going to happen. We've got some logistical issues to work out, but the important thing is it sounds like the parties are 95% in agreement. Although, as Elon Musk's like to say, the job is 95% done with 95% of the work to remain. That's the way it works. But anyway, we'll set a hearing on that. So members of the media, anyone who's following this, has made a request or is observing the proceedings, that'll be the hearing Monday, April 8th at 10 a.m. on the request. Of course, the parties are welcome to be present as well. If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned for the evening. I'll see you all tomorrow morning at 8:45.